everybody, it's Julie for Hero Arts, and today I'm going to be exploring letterpress effects with the Textured Impressions Embossing folder and the Hero Arts new letterpress papers. And I absolutely love letterpress, but when you try to do it yourself, it can be kind of time consuming because you really do have to be prepared to do multiples. If you only want to do one, this is a great way to cheat. So I'm going to be using an embossing folder that is from the Large Christmas Words set. There's one in there that looks like snow, but I thought it also would work well as confetti on a birthday card. So I'm going to be using this really cute birthday saying stamp and the cream letterpress paper, as well as some of the shadow inks to put it all together and create a birthday card. So to get started, I'm going to cut down my letterpress paper. They come in quarter sheets in the package, and I just needed a smaller piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it down so I can reserve that piece for some other project at a later time. And then I'm going to use a Stamp-A-Majig to go ahead and ink up the birthday saying and get that onto the image plate. So I've got that flush in the corner, and then I'm just going to stamp right onto that image plate. And then I can go ahead and take my letterpress paper and take that imaging plate and position that image exactly where I want it. And I can see it's straight because we know Julie needs a lot of help in that department. And then I'm going to butt that tool right back into place, nestle it right back into that corner there with the imaging plate. And then I'll ink up my stamp, and I'm going to carefully remove that plate and not shift that tool there, and then come right back down with my stamp all nestled in the corner, and my greeting will be perfectly placed exactly where I needed it. So it's all centered and straight, no crooked lines. Now the next part of this is to take this Textured Impressions folder, and it has a raised area and it has an indented area. And what I want to do is ink up the raised portion of the image. And I only needed part of it, I didn't need the whole thing. So I'm just going to ink up the area that I need very carefully, and then I'll take my pre-stamped piece. So I've stamped first, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the debossing with the folder. Now, before I run that through the machine, I wanted to point out that you want to avoid having the edge of that folder deboss into your paper because you're only partially embossing it. So I'm going to line the cutting pad up with the edge of the folder, and that way, if it's not over the top, there won't be any pressure on the edge of that embossing folder. So I will avoid getting a line debossed right through the center of my piece there. And then I noticed that a couple spots did not have enough ink on them as I would have liked. So I'm just going to touch it up really quick with a marker. You can use a water-based marker, you could use a colored pencil. I just grabbed the nearest alcohol marker that I had that matched the color of the ink, and I'm just going to touch those up very quickly. So now I can start doing my background, and I'm just going to take the envelope pattern stamp. This is one of my favorite background stamps, and I'm just going to ink it up with some soft pool ink. And then I've already made a base card from some Shallows layering paper, and I'll put that face down on top of my background stamp, and then I'll put some scratch paper over the top of that because we all know how Julie hates to get her fingers inky. So this will protect me. So I can get some smooth pressure all across the surface there, get a nice impression on my base card, and no smudges. So now I can move on to the next part, and that is the punch paper. And this is a panel that I cut to create a matte layer behind the letterpress panel. And I wanted to glitterify it, but I didn't see a reason to waste any of that glittery goodness. So I'm going to cheat by just covering the ends with some Be Creative tape. And so with the ends covered, I can go ahead and trim off the excess there. And then I'll break out my big bin of glitter. Yeah, it's a very big bin. I dump all my little jars in there because I use a lot of this stuff. And I'm just going to scooch all that glitter down to the end there so I have a nice pile. And then I'll lift that tape, the liner paper, off the tape there. And then I'll just plunge that right into the glitter, give it a glitter bath. And then I can go ahead and take a soft brush and clear away the excess there. And that's the only way to glitter, I think, because then you catch all the excess. It's much easier to clean up. And then we'll take some baker's twine. I love baker's twine. And we'll wrap that around the front of the card a couple times. And then I'll go ahead and start the first part of my bow. And I usually end up starting that knot there. And then I'll take my cross-lock tweezers and just clamp them. These are the Tweezer Bee tweezers, and we'll just clamp that down in the middle, and then I can easily tie the rest of my bow without it coming loose. And then I like to, every once in a while, I'm not sure why, I like to knot the ends of my twine Just, I don't know why. I just do. So I'll just go ahead and knot those very quickly before I trim those off. I just think it's a fun added touch. And then I'll go ahead and start layering everything with the 3D dots. Now I want to pop up this piece. So this is the punch panel. So I'm looking at the back of that, and I'm just going to cut these in half because I really don't need the whole entire piece. And so we'll just trim those down, make the most of it, and put that along the outer edges or the long edges of that panel. I don't need it in the middle because it's going to be supported by those bands of twine that are running across the front of the card. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the other thing is, if you know you're going to put some twine there and you forget to put it on first, you can actually use a dental floss threader and slip in behind that panel because there's nothing blocking it, and loop your twine around that way. Ask me how I know. Sometimes I forget. So then I'm going to go ahead and 3D mount the letterpress panel, and I actually did put pop dots all along the outer edges and the middle of this piece because it's going to need all the support across all of it. And I flipped my card upside down because I had to double check, make sure I had everything straight. That's my fail-safe trick. Turn it upside down, and if it looks crooked, then that's when you know you've got to go back and fix that before you move on. Isn't that a great effect? I just love the debossing and the letterpress effect over the top of the stamping. Thanks for watching.